The manga opens with a girl sitting at a table inside Cafe Tutuji, photographing her meal as she eats. She looks at the screen, briefly considers a wider angle, then dismisses the thought. Bringing the camera closer, she focuses on the food and continues to snap it with concentration. Further back, a waiter notices her and looks again, recognizing her as Koharu Sato from his class. She is known for her neat and well-kept appearance, which often draws attention. Because of this, many people have tried to approach her, yet she keeps her distance. She is not close to others, and her reputation was shaped by a past incident involving a student from another class. Her response during that incident became widely known, making her attitude clear to everyone. She treats people the same way regardless of who they are, and this behavior eventually led to her nickname. The waiter continues watching her, wondering why she is there alone. She remains focused on taking a photo of a pancake, her expression serious and intent. When he brings the pancake to her table, she does not notice him at all. She stays completely absorbed in what she is doing, unaware of his presence. It even seems possible that she does not realize she has a classmate named Oshio Suda. Realizing this, he decides he should not continue staring at her. While Sato remains seated, two boys approach her table. One of them addresses her casually, attempting to involve himself in what she is doing. Sato responds with clear disinterest, showing that she has no intention of engaging with them. The boy reacts lightly to her response, finding her reaction appealing rather than discouraging. Assuming she is taking photos for social media, he suggests taking the picture for her, attempting to get closer and proposing further interaction. At that moment, Oshio steps in and intervenes, making it clear that such behavior is inappropriate in that place. The two boys turn their attention toward him and laugh it off, brushing him aside as nothing more than a cafe worker. They tell him to return to his duties and not interfere, continuing to treat the situation lightly. Oshio then raises his voice and calls out toward the back, announcing that a customer has praised the pancakes. In response, the cafe owner comes out. He is a heavily built man, and his presence immediately changes the atmosphere. Seeing him, the boys panic and flee in fear, convinced they are about to face serious trouble. They rush away in a hurry, desperate to escape. Oshio sees Zeman, the owner of Cafe Tutuji, and Oshio's father. His long-held wish is for a customer to personally tell him that the food tastes good. Although he usually stays in the kitchen, this time he comes out in response to Oshio's call. After the boys leave, Oshio turns his attention back to Sato and checks on her condition. She looks toward him and says his name with hesitation. Seeing this, he realizes that she remembers who he is, and it surprises him. As he is still processing this, she suddenly stands up from her chair, steps toward him, and clings to him while trembling. She begins to cry, clearly shaken. Oshio freezes, unable to react immediately, struggling to reconcile this frightened image with the distant persona people usually associate with her. He then guides her into the cafe's office and has her sit down. He prepares tea for her and places a slice of pie in front of her. She eats it and reacts strongly to the taste. After a short while, he asks if she is feeling calmer and explains what kind of tea it is, mentioning that it is what he normally drinks. She then asks whether he knows who she is. He answers positively, explaining that he had considered speaking to her earlier but chose not to because she seemed deeply absorbed in her phone. Internally, he reflects that everyone in their year already knows about her reputation. Noticing how focused she had been before, he wonders what she was doing. She hesitates, and he reassures her that she does not need to answer if she does not want to. Sato suddenly calls out, pulling out her phone and asking him to look at something. He wonders if the device is malfunctioning, but she points to the screen. Taking the phone, he hesitates for a moment, thinking about whether looking through a classmate's photos could cause trouble. He sets the thought aside and checks the image, immediately noticing how poorly it is taken. The subject is unclear, the lighting is wrong, and the food barely looks appetizing. Only then does he realize it is a picture of the cafe's pancake, and he reacts in disbelief. She claims that she wants to post images online to gain attention, but struggles to get it right. She has no friends and wonders if she is simply uninteresting. Oshio listens carefully, taking the matter seriously and reminding himself not to treat it lightly. She adds that she is a high school student looking to find buddies like anyone her age, believing that building a presence on Instagram might help her connect with people. She enjoys desserts, so she goes out alone to try sweets and hopes uploading photos will start conversations. Oshio considers her approach practical and thinks it could help change how others perceive her. She admits she isn't skilled at photography and worries about being mocked if she posts her photos, which is why she has avoided creating an account. Observing her, Oshio realizes she is genuinely trying to change how people see her. The girl everyone calls cold is, in reality, simply struggling. When she describes her fear of having her belongings hidden or sabotaged, Oshio asks to borrow her phone briefly. Surprised, she hands it over. He takes a photo and shows it to her. She stares at the screen in disbelief. The image looks far better than her attempts. Shocked, she learns he also uses the platform. He explains that he manages the cafe's promotional account rather than a personal one. Seeing the account, she is amazed by its presentation and the number of followers, realizing he has built a sizable audience. Her admiration for him becomes apparent. She admits that she usually feels tense around others but is comfortable with her mother. She eagerly shows him another photo, seeking his opinion. Watching her closely, Oshio notes two things. Her intimidating reputation comes from extreme shyness, and her photography skills are remarkably poor. Her lack of skill is almost unique, making even ordinary tea appear unappealing. She takes the phone back, defensively commenting on the results, and Oshio reassures her that the image looks much better than before. She brightens instantly, wondering if continued practice could help her succeed online. He notes how quickly her hope returns after even small encouragement, though he worries her worst photos might be shared publicly if left alone. He suggests a method to improve her photos, and she agrees. As they examine the screen together, she is startled by their closeness. Oshio is equally surprised and notices she hasn't learned to focus the camera properly. He suggests it would be easier to learn if they looked at the screen together. From so close, he notices her appearance more clearly. Sato Koharu is undeniably attractive, one of the most striking students at school, with a figure suitable for modeling, yet her innocent, unguarded reaction makes him self-conscious. She pauses, expressing gratitude for his help and saying she found him impressive. Suddenly, Oshio hears his father call urgently, warning that a large group has arrived. He responds immediately and rushes out of the office. After his father leaves, Oshio realizes staying any longer might be unwise, seeing how many people are nearby. Sato apologizes for troubling him and decides to go home, thanking him again. Oshio agrees and considers asking her to relay a message to his father. Before leaving, she mentions meeting again at school. Once she departs, Oshio reflects that it may be some time before he can return to work. His heart races, and the events feel almost dreamlike. For the first time, he realizes he has shared a private conversation with the girl he has long admired, alone in the same room. As Sato walks away, she worries that she might have said something awkward. Oshio reassures himself he probably did not. In that moment, he understands that the quiet, complicated story between him and Sato Koharu, the girl everyone calls Salt God, has begun. Looking at the table she occupied, he notices she has forgotten her phone. Sato comes home and goes straight to her room. She hugs a pillow, then turns over on the bed and lies face down. Her thoughts drift back to the cafe, to the unexpected sight of Oshio-kun working there, and to the moment he saw her when she was at her most vulnerable. She worries about how that scene might have appeared to him, yet at the same time, her mind lingers how composed and impressive he seemed. The memory leaves a strong impression on her. She then remembers the photos they took earlier that day and thinks about checking them. Recalling the advice he gave her, she feels certain they must have turned out beautifully. As she reaches for her bag to take out her phone, she pauses. After searching again, she realizes it is not there. The absence unsettles her, and the thought crosses her mind that she may have left it behind at Oshio's place. The idea immediately troubles her. She considers going to retrieve it, but she assumes the cafe must already be closed. She hesitates, imagining how inconvenient it would be and how uncomfortable she would feel if she were to see him again so soon. The embarrassment alone makes her falter. Even so, after a moment of inner conflict, she decides to leave the house and head toward his place. As she walks, she notes the familiar entryway that marks the path ahead, knowing his house lies just beyond it. Her heart races, overwhelmed by the awareness that he is the first person she has ever felt this way about. She feels nervous, but his image stays in her mind, like an afterimage she can't shake. Until now, she has only admired him from afar, never daring to speak to him at school. Her thoughts keep returning to small details that stand out. The way his smile tightens his expression, the gentle look of his hair, and the sleepy look in his eyes. Moreover, there's his job at a classy cafe, and his presence online, which make him seem even more distant. Compared to him, she feels he must be admired by many. Even as these thoughts swirl, doubt creeps in. She hesitates again, torn between turning back and continuing on. Part of her feels she has already gone too far to stop now, yet another part urges her to give up and return home. Eventually, she finds herself back at the cafe. When she looks around, no one is in sight. The place feels strangely quiet, and she is left wondering why it does not seem to be closed yet. She steps a little closer to look again and realizes that Oshio is there. He is seated alone, calmly drinking tea. When she calls out to him, he turns toward her and addresses her by name, explaining that he has been expecting her. He stands up, walks over, and accurately guesses that she has come to retrieve her phone. He hands it to her, confirming her suspicion. She is taken aback and asks if he had truly been waiting. He explains that he assumed she would return once she noticed it was missing. After that, he remarks that although it is not very late yet, she should still take care on her way back home. Hearing this, she grows slightly flustered and suddenly asks if she may take a photograph. She claims that she wants to capture the cafe's garden, mentioning how attractive it looks and how it might receive attention online. In her haste, the camera moves quickly, and she immediately realizes she has spoken clumsily. She repeats that she never intended to photograph him. When he asks if she means the garden, she confirms it, and he agrees without hesitation. As she prepares to take the picture, she smiles apologetically, feeling that she might be causing him inconvenience. Inwardly, she questions why she brushed things off so lightly. Her hands tremble from nervousness, yet her body refuses to act the way she wants it to. She tries not to look awkward in front of him, but the more she thinks about it, the more inadequate she feels. Lost in her thoughts, she doesn't notice him approaching from behind. He gently takes her hand and offers to help. When he takes the photo, the front camera accidentally turns on, capturing both of them in the shot. He quickly realizes the mistake, explains the camera is on the wrong mode, and suggests taking another picture. She smiles and says it's fine, thanking him because the photo looks good. As she leaves, she tells him she'll see him at school. He watches her go, a little puzzled, and simply says goodbye. Sato runs happily while looking at the photo of herself with Oshio, her excitement causing her to sprint forward. Suddenly she kneels, admiring their photo. Meanwhile, after she leaves, Oshio sits down on the floor too, and begins to cry quietly. His father approaches and asks if he is all right. Oshio immediately worries that he might have said something strange, but his father reassures him, telling him that he handled the situation well and that everything was fine. Feeling relieved, Oshio lets out a quiet sigh of gratitude. He reflects on how nervous his heart always feels whenever he is around Sato-San. Even though she may not recall, he knows that today is not the first time they have spoken to each other. 2 years earlier, Oshio sits in his classroom at school, staring ahead as his thoughts dwell on how poorly his recent tests have gone, with mathematics troubling him the most. Nearby, he hears a girl reacting to her own difficulties with Japanese. When his gaze shifts toward her, he notices her condition and realizes that she has not eaten anything. Judging by her appearance, he assumes she is tense or possibly unwell. His attention settles fully on her, and he tries to check on how she is feeling. She avoids him, however, asking to be left alone. Despite her response, his concern does not fade, and he finds himself unable to simply overlook her situation. The coldness in her words catches him off guard, leaving him surprised by how distant she seems. After a brief moment of hesitation, he reaches into his bag and pulls out a small pouch. Inside are sugar candies that his father insisted he carry, believing that sweet food helps restore energy when someone feels worn down. Oshio offers some to her, explaining the reason in an awkward and uncertain way, while also admitting that he has never personally noticed much of a difference. Her first reaction is irritation, and she questions why he is involving himself. In response, he reasons that they can be classmates and will likely continue sharing the same space. After a short pause, she hesitantly asks for one piece. He agrees without hesitation and hands it to her. As she eats the candy, she comments that it is nothing more than hardened sugar. The remark makes him feel embarrassed, but she continues speaking, admitting that despite her words, she does feel slightly calmer. The sweetness lingers pleasantly, leaving behind a comforting impression. In the end, she expresses her gratitude, sincerely thanking him for the small yet meaningful gesture. In the present, inside Class 2B, Oshio sits at his desk, focused on his work, though his posture clearly reflects exhaustion. A boy approaches and stops beside him, casually commenting on something unusual he noticed earlier. Oshio looks up, recognizes Ren, and briefly wonders what subject comes next. Ren quickly corrects him, pointing out that it is already lunchtime and remarking on how drowsy he looks. He barely manages to respond, his fatigue obvious. Reacting to this, Ren grabs his head and forcefully tries to wake him, complaining about having to look at a sleeping classmate while eating. Oshio defends himself, explaining that he has barely slept. Hearing this, Ren immediately becomes interested and presses him further, asking what kept him awake. In his own thoughts, Oshio admits the truth to himself. It has been a long time since he last spoke to the girl he likes, and the excitement from that interaction kept him awake until morning. Even so, he knows there is no chance he could admit this to Ren. Instead, he brushes the question aside and claims that he was simply watching videos online. Ren bursts into laughter and mocks him loudly before calling out with excitement, promising to show him something that will wake him up instantly. He dismisses dramatic stories, idols, and online personalities, insisting that this is something different. When Oshio asks what he means, Ren points toward another area of the classroom. Following his gaze, Oshio immediately notices Sato standing there. The sight makes his body tense, and his unease becomes apparent. Ren teases him, pointing out that he seems fully awake now. Internally, Oshio panics, wondering how long she has been standing there and when she started doing that. According to Ren, she has been there for several minutes without moving at all. Half-jokingly, he suggests that Oshio must have done something to upset her. While speaking, Ren holds his bread and continues watching her with interest. Still confused, Oshio asks what he means by that. Ren exaggerates the situation, claiming that whatever Oshio did must have been serious enough to provoke such a reaction. He remarks that she looks genuinely angry and insists that Oshio has made a huge mistake. Our lad immediately denies it, but Ren points out that her unmoving presence has begun to unsettle everyone else in the room, as if something could happen at any moment. Oshio's thoughts begin to spiral. He wonders if she became uncomfortable after what happened the previous day. Even though they had barely spoken before, he had taken her to his room and even held her hands. The contrast feels like falling straight from happiness into despair. His head lowers as guilt and regret start to overwhelm him. Suddenly, Ren notices movement and begins to say that Sato is coming over. Oshio, however, remains lost in his thoughts, criticizing himself for getting carried away the night before. Ren tries to pull him up forcefully while calling his name, but he does not react. His thoughts grow darker, filled with self-loathing and a desire to disappear entirely. At that moment, Sato arrives directly in front of him and calls out his name. Oshio instantly lifts his head in surprise. Speaking quickly and urgently, she asks about exchanging their mine IDs. He reacts with confusion, not fully understanding what she means at first. Growing flustered, she hurriedly corrects herself, stumbling over her words as she elaborates that she wanted to contact him, then immediately apologizes for how she phrased it. She admits that she had been thinking about sending something and tries to clarify her meaning. Oshio asks if she remembers. She refers to the previous night at his house and specifically mentions the selfie they took together. The truth hits him all at once, and panic floods his mind as he finally understands the situation. Their classmates whisper about their unexpected closeness, surprised that Sato is the one initiating interaction, something they've never seen before. They try to read more into it than necessary. Still caught up in the awkward tension, our lad snaps back to the present, calling Sato-San's name. He asks if she's thirsty, but the question leaves her uncertain. He suggests leaving the room together, and before he fully realizes it, his hand reaches out and closes around hers. The sudden contact makes her surprised. She tries to stop him, but he gently guides her forward as they leave the classroom. From his seat, Ren watches the entire scene unfold with clear interest. Once outside, Oshio stops, and the reality of what he's done hits him. Sato looks at him and points out what just happened. Her words immediately make him panic. He lets go of her hand, flustered, and worries about how the moment might have appeared to her. They remain standing there as the awkwardness lingers between them. When Sato apologizes, the confusion he feels only grows stronger. He cannot understand why she believes an apology is necessary. As she explains, saying his earlier behavior seemed like avoidance, he realizes there was a misunderstanding. He had only been trying to avoid making things awkward in front of everyone, but it gave her the wrong impression. Taking time to reflect on her words, he moves to clarify his true feelings. He explains that he did not feel negatively at all, and admits that in truth, he feels quietly pleased by it. When Sato seeks reassurance, his response leaves no room for doubt about his sincerity. Wanting to resolve the situation properly, he agrees to share his mine ID. She agrees, and the tension between them gradually settles into mutual understanding. As the moment passes, his attention turns inward once more. Looking at her, he reflects quietly on his own behavior and realizes how immature his earlier thoughts had been. He reminds himself that she has already stated her desire for friendship and that she meant to share pics rather than suggest anything deeper. He understands that being chosen first does not carry special meaning and cautions himself against reading too much into it. Still, her calm and gentle expression almost leads him astray, briefly allowing him to imagine feelings that may not exist. Recognizing this clearly, he knows it is a misunderstanding he must avoid. Even so, he does not choose to abandon his affection. He understands that revealing his emotions now would only trouble her and create discomfort. Instead, he resolves to wait, believing there will be a proper time in the future when he'll confess. He firmly trusts that day will come. Until then, he decides to begin with a simple connection, accepting the role they share now while quietly anticipating what lies ahead. Not long after, he shares his ID and asks her to connect with him. She agrees and sends a message while standing right in front of him, leaving him briefly puzzled. Moments later, he notices she invited him to drink boba after school. When she waits for his response, he hesitates only briefly before agreeing that if she is comfortable spending time with him. Standing beside someone so charming causes him to question his resolve, and he begins to wonder how long he will be able to remain content, keeping their relationship within the boundaries he has set for now. After school, they go to a tea shop that is always crowded. The line stretches far, and Oshio notices it with surprise. Sato becomes immediately enthusiastic when she sees the bubble tea. Oshio gently encourages her to stay calm and asks if she is okay with waiting in the long line. She assures him that it is fine, insisting that they have already come this far and there is no turning back. Oshio briefly reflects that she is very aware of even the smallest and most random things. He suggests that they get in line quickly because he is starting to feel thirsty. Sato asks if he is certain, and he confirms, explaining that he wants to try the drink anyway. Then he tells her that the drink is meant for her, and Sato pauses, trying to understand what he means. Oshio clarifies that he intends to help her, explaining that everything is arranged for her to share the experience and connect with friends online. Sato listens, somewhat puzzled at first, but eventually acknowledges that his plan makes sense. They continue walking forward, and Oshio begins eating quietly by himself. The way Sato reacts makes him feel slightly uneasy, and for a moment, he almost thinks that she genuinely wanted to spend an after-school outing with him. He quickly realizes, however, that this is simply part of the plan to guide her into becoming more active online. Cheerfully, he tells her that they should get in line, and she lowers her head and agrees as they join the queue. At that moment, the sun is directly overhead, and he points it out. Sato confirms, acknowledging the heat. Standing outside under the summer sun while waiting for a cold drink feels ironic. Even though school has just ended, the early summer heat is intense. In front of them, 3 girls are talking and laughing among themselves. Observing them, Oshio feels uncertain where to focus his attention. Sato calls out to him, explaining that she was just saying his name. He notices her unusual behavior but resigns himself to it. She begins playing around on his face, and he wonders whether she is distracted by another game. At the same time, a voice calls out from behind, pointing out a wardrobe issue. Oshio is startled, noticing her reaction, and Sato quickly adjusts herself. He wonders why the girl is reacting so strongly and complies with the correction. After waiting for about half an hour, their drinks finally arrive. 2 cups of Assam bubble tea with foamed milk on top are placed before them. Sato takes her drink and remarks on what bubble tea is. Oshio acknowledges her comment, and she immediately begins thinking about how to photograph it to share online. He explains that the simplest approach is to include the store's exterior in the background so that the source of the drink is clear. She studies the shopfront as he suggests, understanding that showing both the store and the cup in the same frame is important, and she notes to be careful not to collide with others while taking the picture. As they move closer to the shop for a better angle, Oshio mentions that he might try preparing the drink himself someday. Sato takes a photo and proudly shows it to him, but he notices that the focus of the image is mostly on her hand. A voice from behind draws their attention again, pointing out the girls nearby. They watch as the 3 girls engage in a playful activity involving the bubble tea, impressing Oshio. He realizes that this is the bubble tea challenge, where the tea is balanced and consumed through a straw without using the hands. Sato expresses interest in trying it herself, causing him to feel flustered. She insists that she can participate in the trend and is determined to attempt it immediately, excited by the challenge. Sato tries to stop him, but he proceeds with the challenge anyway. After finishing, she asks him what he thinks. Oshio reacts with amazement, noting the effect of the drink. Suddenly, she loses her balance, and he steps forward to prevent her from falling, placing a hand on her waist to steady her. He apologizes for the incident, and she responds in kind. He internally feels intense embarrassment. Meanwhile, one of the girls nearby remarks that she will try the same challenge with her boyfriend next time. They both sip their tea in silence. Oshio feels awkward about his earlier actions. He only meant to prevent her from falling, yet he now worried that he touched her in a way that made her uncomfortable. Believing she might dislike him, he decided he needed to apologize. He calls out to her softly. When she looks up, tears are running down her cheeks. She whispers, blaming herself for everything that went wrong. Even small tasks, like taking a good picture of her bubble tea, felt impossible, and now she worries that asking Oshio to come along was a mistake. Oshio asks her to hand him the cup as he takes a picture. He explains that what matters is not the tea itself, but the memory of where it came from. Sato looks at the photo and quietly acknowledges its beauty. Oshio reassures her not to belittle herself and tells her that there are people who appreciate her, though she only needs one. Sato mentions her plans for Saturday, asking if Oshio would accompany her to try ice cream rolls. Oshio, caught off guard, politely declines, saying he is busy that day, but encourages her that she can manage without his help. He hands her phone back and apologizes for his abruptness. Sato thanks him for the day, and they prepare to leave. She walks away from the tea shop. On Saturday, Oshio works at the cafe, finishing the cleaning. He then considers offering tea to his father and notices him stretching. He reflects silently that it has been 5 days since he visited Tea Pearl with Sato and realizes he has not spoken to her since. He wonders about how he should have responded to her invitation, thinking about her ability to make friends through her posts and that she can take pictures on her own. He considers that with practice, she will gradually strengthen her skills and that other people may show interest in her as well. Oshio takes out his phone and checks the time, reviewing Sato's social media account. He notes how notifications automatically alert friends when someone joins, suspecting that Sato may not be aware of it. He feels a mixture of relief and self-reproach, realizing another day has passed without interaction with her. He carries tea to his father, who comments on the strain in his muscles. Oshio internally questions the meaning behind his father's words. His father shares that since their mother left, he has been protecting the cafe and Oshio, both of which are irreplaceable and valuable. Oshio thanks him quietly, though he wonders why such matters are being brought up now. His father observes that Oshio is hesitant about pursuing a girl he likes and teases that it is evident from his demeanor. He admits it silently, thinking that the initial remarks could have been omitted, though he feels it cannot be helped. The cafe cannot yet afford additional staff, even though business is growing, partly due to social media promotion. He recognizes the importance of the cafe both to his father and to himself. His father begins recounting his college days in the Sweets Enthusiast Club, a peaceful group run by 4 men who were fascinated with rich desserts. Among them, a person known as Muscle Lord joined after being expelled from the football circle for secretly adding protein to drinks. The turning point in their interactions came when they shared the same pancakes, which became the foundation of their bond. Despite Muscle Lord's unusual obsession with protein, the group welcomed him. Oshio watches quietly, thinking their story sounds a bit over the top, and noticing how unusual the group was. He listens as his dad recounts that adding protein to the pancakes caused confusion and arguments among the group. Over time, they reconciled. Oshio considers that the crucial part of the story is the explanation of these events. His father concludes by revealing that the person known as Muscle Lord is, in fact, Oshio's mother. Oshio feels confused, and his father notices. He admits that their conversation had gotten off track and reminds Oshio that they were talking about the strain in his muscles. He explains that, like people before him, muscles grow through effort and tension. Life's challenges can be uncomfortable and stressful, but they also help us grow. If muscles struggle without being challenged, it shows a lack of proper effort. Oshio thinks about this, realizing that even though his father is right, some situations cannot be changed. His father then suggests getting help from someone in the Sweets Enthusiast Club to assist with the cafe on weekends. He stresses that it's important for Oshio to face challenges and take responsibility, as it's part of learning. He thanks Oshio for everything he's done so far, recognizing that the cafe's progress is because of his efforts, encouraging him to keep pursuing what he wants while leaving other responsibilities in capable hands. At that moment, Oshio notices a notification on his phone showing that Sato has posted her first picture on social media. Inspired, he decides to borrow his father's bike and heads out. His father calls out encouragement from behind, assuring him that he supports him no matter what, cheering him on as he leaves. Sato enters the ice cream shop, carefully trying to take a picture of her dessert. She feels drained, overwhelmed by the effort it takes to upload even a single image online, the pressure of having no followers, the uncertainty of how others might react, and the expectation of thousands of viewers weigh heavily on her mind. She thinks of Oshio, who posts impressive photos almost every day with effortless confidence. Comparing herself to him makes her feel rushed and inadequate. She begins eating the ice cream, uncertain if it even tastes good. Watching other girls at a nearby table enjoying theirs, she questions her own sense of taste, but finishes what she has, reminding herself not to waste it. Memories of Oshio flood her mind, how he saved her at Cafe Tutuji, taught her photography, and accompanied her to get bubble tea. Despite her inexperience with relationships, she realizes his kindness is extraordinary, and she has relied on it more than she should. Sato reflects on her motivations for being active on social media. She initially wanted to get closer to Oshio, not make friends. Her goal was to match his presence, to feel equal to him. Now, she admits to herself that she was naive. Oshio has always been out of reach, like a flower atop a distant summit. Even small pleasures, like eating an expensive ice cream, bring little satisfaction if her only goal is to be near him. She understands that her desire was never about food or social media. It was about sharing experiences with Oshio, a longing connected to her first love. When she calls him, he arrives at the shop. She notices the toppings on her ice cream and immediately recognizes them as from the shop they both know, despite no visible labels. She is struck by how much he notices, how skilled he is at observing details. This only deepens her understanding of her own shortcomings in photography and online sharing. She admits to herself that she has been pushing beyond her abilities, trying to be someone she is not. Oshio points out problems in her picture. The filter does not suit the image, the subject is difficult to see, and the angle is taken from too high, weakening the presentation of the cup despite its appealing design. Yet he reassures her that her attempt is far better than his own early efforts. He shows her one of his first photos, a pancake picture. The quality is poor, and she realizes she has never seen it online. He explains that it embarrassed him so much he never shared it. He shows more failed attempts, one shot from directly above, another ruined by harsh sunlight, and one where he adjusted the shot so long the toppings melted. Sato is stunned by how many photos he still keeps. He explains it took nearly 1,000 tries before he felt confident sharing a single picture. At the time, he wanted to support his father in the cafe, and improving his skills was the least he could do. Sato admits she always thought his success came naturally. He corrects her, describing the study and anxiety behind each effort. He notes that now, both of them have shared their work online and, in that sense, are no longer outsiders. He proposes continuing together, mentioning a shaved ice shop in a nearby town that has become popular online. He offers it as a way to make up for the day. Sato hesitates, aware of her lack of confidence and her difficulty taking good pictures. He assures her that he can guide her. She reflects on herself, her dullness, her struggles with conversation, her lack of close friends. He admits he is not especially entertaining either. She compares herself to the other girls at school and wonders if it would still be acceptable to be by his side. He responds with a gentle expression, making it clear that she is the only person he truly wants to go with. She keeps blaming herself, confused that she has fallen in love again with her first love. Oshio sits at his study table, lost in thought. A particular line echoes repeatedly in his mind, something often mistaken for a famous saying, yet actually spoken by his closest friend, Misono Ren. It reflects the idea that a man's pride, though small and fragile, is not something he would normally discard without reason. According to Ren, the only time a man willingly abandons such pride is when he is pursuing the woman he truly loves. Oshio recalls how Ren once humbled himself completely for his former girlfriend, even when she showed him nothing but disdain and may or may not have treated him harshly. Despite that, Ren still lowered himself and pleaded for reconciliation. That image remains vivid in Oshio's memory. He remembers how clearly Ren shared this belief that day, repeating again and again that a man only throws away his vanity when chasing the woman he loves. Now, Oshio realizes that moment has arrived for him as well. Even so, he cannot deny that Ren's words carry truth. At 9:30 that night, Oshio picks up his phone and sends Ren a message, telling him that there is something important he wants to ask. The following day at school, he speaks to Ren in person. Ren reacts with disbelief and points out that Oshio has set his sights on an almost impossible goal, something he never imagined would involve Sato. He admits his surprise, especially since Oshio never seemed interested in romance at all. Ren explains that, regardless of her strengths or flaws, Sato naturally draws attention wherever she goes. Still, if he were the one choosing, he would never select her as a target. Even so, he begins to view Oshio with a bit more respect. As Oshio listens, he reflects silently on how unpleasant Ren's personality can be. He thinks that if Ren were not his closest friend, he would have already ended their friendship. After a brief pause, our lad brings up the issue that has been bothering him, asking whether people think he is pursuing Sato and whether others are already aware of it. Ren clarifies that he is the only one who believes Oshio is aiming for her. This surprises him, but Ren immediately explains the reason. Most of their classmates already assume that Oshio and Sato are in a relationship. Oshio reacts internally with panic. He firmly denies that anything of the sort exists between him and Sato. Ren, however, remains unconcerned and understands immediately, judging from Oshio's reaction alone. He mentions that recently many boys in their class have been approaching him, constantly asking what Oshio did to win over someone like Sato. Confused, Oshio wonders why Ren is the one being questioned. Ren explains that there is no other choice since those boys are too intimidated by Sato to even attempt a normal conversation with her. Oshio thinks again about how cutting Ren's words always are. Ren praises him in his own twisted way, noting that despite his inexperience, he seems to be heading in the right direction. The comment irritates Oshio more than he expects, and he wishes that Ren would stop labeling him that way, as the repeated remarks continue to grate on his nerves. Ren does not stop there. He questions Oshio relentlessly, wondering whether he is pretending not to understand, hiding his embarrassment, or joking despite having been serious earlier. Oshio becomes confused by the line of questioning and tries to grasp what Ren is implying. Ren responds with blunt contempt, thinking that Oshio's inexperience is unpleasant and adding that Sato is not someone who can be approached easily. He follows this with his usual harsh teasing, insisting that Oshio keep his distance, as if even standing too close would be troublesome. He grows more irritated and internally rejects the idea, knowing that such things are not transferable in any way. While walking, the two of them arrive at a shop called Moon. Ren points out that they have reached their destination and makes it clear that this place is his personal recommendation. The store operates during fixed daytime hours and carries a distinctive atmosphere. They step inside together, and Oshio looks around in disbelief. He is struck by how impressive the place is and realizes that it is a second-hand clothing shop rather than the kind of large retail chain he had imagined. Ren scans the interior and casually notes that someone seems to be missing. Oshio examines the items more closely and wonders whether the clothes and shoes on display belong to someone unusual, noticing details that make him question their condition. Nearby, a woman begins explaining the origins of the clothing in great detail. She identifies specific garments as rare military pieces from Europe and describes the materials and craftsmanship with technical precision. Her explanation continues at length, filled with unfamiliar terminology, and Oshio finds it difficult to follow. He senses that the information may be beyond his level of understanding. Noticing Oshio's reaction, the woman abruptly apologizes for startling him and cheerfully introduces herself as the shop clerk. Ren recognizes her immediately and addresses her familiarly, revealing that she is his older sister. This revelation shocks Oshio. She formally introduces herself as Misono Shizuku, an employee of the vintage clothing store Moon. With confidence, she declares her intention to transform Oshio into someone exceptionally charming, mentioning that Ren has already spoken to her about him. As he processes this, his thoughts drift to a memory involving his mother. He recalls once making a careless remark that resulted in being struck on the head. From that experience, he remembers words often framed as wise sayings. Unlike famous quotes attributed to great figures, these words belong to his mother. They emphasize that a woman's pride is something deeply valuable, never to be discarded, and something that should be protected throughout life. He also recalls her firm stance against violence, despite delivering the lesson forcefully herself. Reflecting on it all, Oshio concludes that the idea behind those words is sound. On the other side, Sato asks her cousin for assistance, explaining that she needs help deciding what to wear. Her cousin immediately understands the situation and assumes it is related to going out with someone. Sato explains that there is no one else she can rely on besides her cousin. Hearing this, her cousin agrees. She thinks that if Sato were left on her own, she might end up choosing something odd. Curiosity soon follows, and she wonders what kind of boy is involved. Naturally, she asks whether he is good-looking. The question catches Sato off guard. She reacts with visible surprise at the implication and internally denies that her connection with Oshio has reached that level. She reminds herself that their relationship is not defined in such a way yet. Sato's cousin, Pseudo Rinka, is 15 years old and currently in her third year of middle school. She is 2 years younger than Sato, despite also being her cousin. Even with the age difference, Rinka teases Sato mercilessly. She fixates on Oshio's name and mocks Sato for hesitating. She points out that Sato is already in high school and still speaking as if nothing is certain. Rinka suggests that if Sato remains passive, someone else might claim him first. Sato reflects on this with frustration. Although she is older, she constantly feels looked down on. She thinks about how Rinka is always sharp-tongued and difficult to deal with, repeating to herself that she is, in fact, 2 years older. Rinka circles back to the same question and again wonders whether the boy is attractive. When Sato does not respond immediately, Rinka interprets the silence as uncertainty and assumes Sato lacks confidence. Feeling pressured, Sato firmly states that Oshio is indeed good-looking. Rinka immediately tells her to calm down and stretches out her hand, which only confuses Sato. She declares that there should at least be a picture of him and asks to see it, questioning whether Sato truly behaves like a high school student if she cannot even show that much. Sato hesitates, embarrassed by the sudden request. She thinks about how the photo is not particularly special and worries because she herself appears in it as well. Before she can stop her, Rinka snatches the phone and bursts into laughter. She comments on Sato's stiff expression in the picture and examines the image closely. Sato tries to intervene, but Rinka does not stop. After looking properly, Rinka remarks that the boy appears somewhat delicate and not entirely to her taste. She adds that Sato is being noisy and concludes that she now understands Sato's preference. Rinka hands the phone back and casually states that Oshio is simply an ordinarily attractive boy. She questions why Sato felt the need to hide him in the first place. She then points out that Sato seemed pleased when he was described as handsome. Rinka adds that Sato herself is strikingly good-looking, which makes her uneasy. She worries that Sato might be deceived, suggesting that Oshio's intentions could be tied to appearances or social standing. Rinka reminds Sato that she has never been in a relationship before, implying that her lack of experience could prevent her from noticing such things. She suggests setting Oshio's character aside for the moment. Sato considers this carefully and admits, even to herself, that inexperience requires greater caution. She acknowledges that having feelings for someone can cloud judgment and that she does not yet fully understand these matters. Rinka responds by implying that realization often comes too late. Hearing this, Sato wonders whether Rinka is actually more mature than she is. She recalls always thinking this way, but now feels that it may truly be the case. Rinka tells Sato to stop addressing her in such a strange manner. Shortly after, they arrive at their destination. Sato had imagined the shop would be brighter and more open, and she hesitates upon seeing it. She nervously confirms the name and operating hours. Rinka corrects her, explaining that this is not the place Sato was thinking of. Relieved, Sato relaxes. Rinka then discloses that the place they are heading to is technically a grocery store, but that it carries a surprisingly decent range of clothing. She mentions that the shop mostly sells men's clothes and that the quality varies widely. Sato asks whether Rinka usually shops at more stylish places. Rinka reminds her that she is still a middle school student and cannot afford to shop extravagantly. She also confirms that Sato is serious this time, adding that her budget would not survive without occasionally buying second-hand items. Sato agrees without hesitation. They step inside the shop together and are greeted by a woman behind the counter. The woman immediately notices Rinka and then turns her attention to the unfamiliar girl beside her. Rinka introduces Sato as her cousin, Koharu, explaining that the visit is sudden and time-sensitive. She makes it clear that Koharu has an important outing coming up and cannot afford to make a mistake. She asks for professional help in choosing clothing that will guarantee a good impression. Caught off guard, Sato hurriedly agrees. Still slightly confused, she formally introduces herself. The woman reacts with interest. Recognizing the seriousness of the situation, she introduces herself as Nezu Mayo, an employee of the shop Hidamari, and assures them that she will put together an appropriate outfit. Hearing this, Sato responds with visible enthusiasm, echoing the upbeat mood as she places her trust in Mayo's coordination. At the Moon Store, Misono dresses Oshio, carefully selecting pieces to create a summer-appropriate outfit. She pairs a German fisherman shirt with white work pants, adding a pocket hat with navy stripes to complete a look that feels both marine and sporty. Oshio observes silently, feeling almost as if the clothes themselves exert an influence over him. Ren notes that the silhouette of the outfit is too bulky and does not complement Suda's slender frame. Oshio questions why Ren speaks on his behalf, but admits to himself that garments that reflect his build might suit him better. Ren agrees, then steps back, letting Oshio watch while Misono takes over for a moment. She evaluates his potential, guiding him carefully. Ren presents the next outfit, a paisley-patterned, open-collared shirt with gray slacks and a draped belt. The muted colors give a sophisticated feel and suit Oshio's build well. After dressing him, they check the result and agree the fitted style works, though Misono mentions it might look a bit too intentional for a high school student. Meanwhile, Ren and Misono discuss other possibilities, debating how different elements, like shoes, military-inspired pieces, cargo shorts, or French navy stripes, could change the overall style. They aim for a casual but distinctive look. Oshio is asked to pick his favorite combination. He admits he doesn't know much about fashion but wants to look presentable, especially in front of the girl he likes. He thinks about his insecurities, athletics, academics, and social skills, and realizes he mainly wants to feel comfortable and confident, not necessarily popular. Ren checks whether Misono still has a particular shirt in a specific color. She confirms it is available and pairs it with a white tank top, discussing whether denim or light blue British-style tights would work best. They consider accessories, noting that no suitable bag is immediately available, but Oshio remembers an unused sling bag he owns, which is then included in the outfit. Finally, they decide to pair the ensemble with Italian navy sailor shoes, completing the coordinated look. Misono brings the shirt over, explaining the appeal of vintage clothing and how it can highlight Suta's sense of style. She emphasizes that, for the sake of his appearance, she will leave the selection at that. Ren agrees, noting that they will carefully consider their choices and playfully defers further teasing. Oshio takes the shirt, noticing the subtle teasing from both of them, but Misono instructs him to simply go and change into the new outfit. After changing, Oshio confirms that the outfit fits without issue. Ten observes, acknowledging that he appears undeniably handsome. Ren comments on the situation with mild frustration, and Misono adds that the phrasing of their remarks feels relatively dull. Oshio reflects that the outfit does look neat, and expresses his gratitude toward Ren and Misono, deciding to keep it. Misono thanks him for his help and states the price, which Oshio finds surprisingly low for vintage clothing. She explains that she has chosen the most affordable options, aware of the financial limitations of high school students. Ren adds that the sling bag is a gift, no longer needed by him. Misono advises Oshio to use the remaining money to enhance his appearance for his upcoming date and notes that an evening discount has been applied. He thanks them sincerely, promising to do his best. Ren mentions that vintage stores are often dusty, acknowledging that this is likely Oshio's first visit to such a shop. Misono explains that the abundance of vintage items makes it unavoidable to spend some time there and suggests he should go home afterward. Oshio refuses, saying he cannot leave alone after their company so far. Ren reassures him, revealing that the store belongs to his father and that his home is just upstairs. Oshio reacts with mild surprise, and Ren confirms, telling him not to worry. At the counter, he bids farewell to Misono and thanks her for her help. She encourages him to return, noting special discounts for stormy and rainy days. Oshio reflects briefly, thinking that the discounts seem unusually generous. Sato reflects on herself, recognizing that she is naturally very shy, particularly when dealing with store clerks who approach her quickly during their first meeting. She feels uneasy in these situations, as if the clerks are her natural adversaries. Whenever she regains her composure, she notices the clerk standing before her with a tentative smile. As they speak, her thoughts often scatter, and she loses track of her words. Because of this, she has few pleasant memories associated with clothing stores. Mayo helps Sato try on an outfit, carefully adjusting it to suit her. The linen blouse is tailored to create a light, refreshing silhouette. Trendy earth tones are used to make Sato look more mature, and the simple design highlights a quiet elegance. When Sato sees the finished outfit, she is pleased and decides to buy it. She checks the total cost and is surprised by how affordable it is. Mayo explains that an evening discount has been applied. Sato thanks her and gets ready to leave. She is encouraged to come back again and is told that there are even more discounts on rainy or stormy days. Before Sato leaves, Rinka says she will stay and talk to Mayo for a little while longer. As Sato walks away, she briefly worries that the discounts might be too generous and that the clothes Mayo chose could get damaged. Suddenly, Sato almost loses her balance. Oshio reaches out from behind and catches her, stopping her from falling. She apologizes and thanks him. When she turns to look at him, she is surprised to see him, but recognizes him right away.
Here I am.